Can someone tell me what are the 3 fiction types we've learned about this week? What are the 3 different types of fiction we've learned about this week? Amira, name one.
Fairy tale.
Fairy tales. What's another one? Tristan, what's another one?
Folk tales.
Folk tales. What's the last one? Grace.
Fables.
Fables. Good job, guys. Awesome, awesome. So we have learned about fairy tales, folk tales, and fables. Today, we are going to be learning about myths. Today, we're going to be learning about myths, okay? So our myth stories are a little bit different than our fairy tales, folk tales, and fables. They have some stuff in common, but they're a little bit different. So let's talk about the characteristics of myths, okay? Let's talk about the characteristics of myths. So, when I'm talking about myths, one thing that a myth has that is very different than our fairy tales, folk tales, and fables, myths usually have gods or goddesses, okay? Usually they have some kind of god or goddess in them. So like Loki, Thor, I can't think of other ones.
Odin.
You got another one?
Zeus.
Zeus?
I got one.
What's another one?
Kratos. Kratos, the god of war.
Pit from Kid Icarus.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for your help. Okay, you. Thank you for your help. Good job. All those guys.
And Poti.
So they have gods or goddesses. Okay, so that is something that's different. So the other thing is going to be
And Merlin.
have human feelings. The gods have human feelings, okay? So that doesn't mean that they necessarily act like a human, but that they feel like we do. So they feel angry, sad, upset, embarrassed, ashamed, all those words, okay? They have the same feelings that we do. So they may not act the same way because obviously they probably have magical powers. So they're not going to necessarily act how we do, but they feel the same way we do, okay? All right. This is something that all of our stories, but fairy tales, have had in common. It will have a lesson learned, okay? Your god or goddess, that is the main character of the story, will learn some type of lesson. Will learn some type of lesson, okay? And then a big one that I kind of already said, most of our gods and goddesses will have magic. They will have some kind of magic powers, okay? Some kind of magic powers. And then the last thing is, usually myths come from different cultures, okay? Myths come from different cultures. They usually are not going to come from like the United States and stuff. They may come from the Chinese, they may come from the Vikings, they may come from different places, okay? So these are our characteristics of a myth. So now we're actually going to read a myth. It's on Epic. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm only going to read about half of it because then it's going to be one of the myths that you can read after during independent reading. So I'm going to go to Epic. Okay. I'm actually going to let y'all vote on which one you would like me to read. Would you like me to read, thumbs up, if you would like me to read Loki, thumbs down if you would like me to read Freya. She's a woman god, okay? Loki or Freya, thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up if you want Loki, thumbs down if you want Freya. Yes, Holly. Oh, thumbs.
Is that a chat? Was that like a comic book?
No, it's a regular picture book.
Because I don't like comic books.
No, it's just a regular picture book.
How
Thumbs
dare
up,
you?
Loki, thumbs down,
How
Freya.
dare you? I love comic books.
Make sure you're muted. All right, I have definitely thumbs up. Definitely lots of thumbs up, so we'll read Loki.
It looks nothing like Loki.
It doesn't. It looks a little different. So this is a little bit different, right? Because it's a myth. So it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a different version of Loki.
Okay, mute. Thank you. So this is the short tales of the Norse myth of Loki. Mythical beginnings. Loki goes by many names, including Maker of Lies, Sly God, Shapeshifter, and Trickster. Loki won many over with his fun-loving ways. At times, he just seemed like a harmless prankster. Often, he used his quick wit to undo the very trouble that he had caused. As the years went by, Loki's deeds became more serious. He later caused the ruin of Asgard and the land of the gods. Loki was not a true god. He was a giant. But unlike most giants, Loki was very handsome. He was also a gifted speaker. Loki was married to a fearsome giantess named Angerboda, I think. Together they had 3 fearsome children. Their daughter, Hela, became the goddess of death. Loki's 2 sons were the fiercest creatures ever imagined. The first was Fenrir, a giant wolf. The second was Jörmungandr, I think, just guessing, also known as the Midgard snake. The Midgard snake was so large he encircled the earth. One day Loki met a traveling god named Odin. Odin was the greatest of all the gods. Odin enjoyed Loki's stories very much. The two made an oath to be brothers. Loki returned with Odin to Asgard. He lived among the gods as one of them. One day the gods were discussing a problem. The frost giants are always trying to enter Asgard, Odin said. They cause a lot of trouble. I know a splendid architect, Loki boasted. He can build a fortress strong enough to keep the frost giants out. So Loki brought them to the architect. I can build such a fortress, the architect said, but my fee will be the sun and the moon. The gods gasped in shock. And the goddess Freya must become my bride, he added. We cannot meet his price, said Boldar. We need the fortress, said Odin. Agree to his terms, but tell him he must finish by winter's end, or he will receive no payment, Loki said with a grin. This will be impossible for him. The gods were happy to have Loki's wisdom. They did not realize the architect was a frost giant. With his giant workhorse, Salvador Fair, I think, the architect made quick work of the fortress. Time quickly passed. Winter's end tonight, Odin exclaimed. All that is left is to put a gate on the fortress, Boldar said. The architect will easily finish it, Freya said. You gave us terrible advice, Loki, Odin said angrily. I must not be forced to marry this man, Freya cried. We cannot give up the sun and the moon, Thor said. You are a fool, Loki, Balder yelled. Loki did not want to be thought of as a fool. He decided to undo his own mischief. He knew the giant needed Salvador Fair to finish the gate, so he came up with a plan. Loki could change into many different things. He made himself into a beautiful mare, which is a horse. Then he ran across Salvador Fair's path. Salvador Fair fell in love with Loki at first sight. He broke free of his harness and chased the mare. "Come back here," cried the architect, who ran after the horses. In the morning, the architect was nowhere to be found. Freya did not have to marry him. The moon and the sun stayed in their places. The gods finished the fortress on their own. "Your advice was good after all, Loki," said Odin. "I'm not so sure," said Voldar. All right, so I'm going to stop right there. So it's page 21. So if you want to keep reading this one, you can. Okay, this will be one of your options. So real quick, let's look at our characteristics, okay? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Does it have gods or goddesses? Oh, yes, lots of thumbs, right? We had lots of gods and goddesses. What about, did the gods have human feelings? Did the gods have human feelings? Oh, yeah, right? They got mad, they were upset, then they were happy, right? So they definitely had the same feelings as us. Was there a lesson learned? Did Loki learn a lesson? He did, right? He gave them bad advice, and then he had to shapeshift to try and fix that bad advice. What about magic? Did they have any magic? Oh, yeah, lots of magic, right? Lots of magic. What about come from different cultures? Were there different cultures? Oh, yeah, for sure, right? There were definitely some different cultures involved, okay? Okay, so real quick, get out your independent reading journal. Independent reading journal. Independent reading journal, please. Independent reading journal, please. Independent reading journal, please.
Miss Chandler,
Yes, Holly.
I don't have an independent reading journal.
Well, it's just your reading notebook.
Ah,
That's what I meant to call it. Sorry. Your reading notebook. Reading notebook, reading notebook, reading notebook. Reading notebook, reading notebook, reading notebook. Okay? All right. So we are talking about myths. We are talking about myths. Okay? So you're going to write your title. You're going to write your title. You're going to write your title. Make sure you're writing with me. Then we're going to write our characteristics. Then we're going to write our characteristics. So myths are pretty easy because there's only 5. There's only 5 characteristics. Gods or goddesses, okay? It has to have gods or goddesses. Gods have human feelings. There's a lesson learned. They have magic and different cultures, okay? Those are our 5 characteristics of a myth. So a little bit different than folktale, fable, and fairy tale because there's a lot less characteristics. It's pretty specific if it's a myth. Make sure you're muted. I don't want to hear your background noises. Morgan, can you mute yourself? You're unmuted. I can hear all your background noises. Gabriel, it might be you. Oh, never mind, you're muted. Just kidding, it's not you. All right, so we are going to focus on something different with our myths. So we've really been focusing on lessons learned, right? We did that yesterday and we did that the day before. So today, I want us to kind of go back to our characters, okay? I want us to go back to our characters. So when you're reading about your gods and goddesses, okay, I want you to look at the major characters, okay? Look at the major characters, and then I want you to look at the minor characters. Now, on some of these, there may not necessarily be minor characters, okay? You may not necessarily have minor characters. Kind of just depends on the myth. There may only be major characters. Kind of just depends on the myth. And then the main question you're going to focus on is it a good relationship or bad? Okay? Is it a good relationship or bad? Because our one with Loki, right? He thought it was a good relationship and they thought it was a good relationship and he was really helping them. But in the end, his advice actually was bad, right? And so then he had to go fix it. So really, the relationship ended up being bad. He did not have necessarily a good effect on the other gods. All right, and then I'm going to send you in the chat. I'm going to send you in the chat your two different options, okay, for our myths today. Okay, you have two different options. You can either finish reading Loki, or you can read Freya. Okay, you either finish reading Loki or you can read Freya. Either one. Either one.
So
So
we
remember
can't do
Loki, I
Odin.
talked on page 21.
So we can't do Odin.
You can do Odin. So I actually was going to say, Gabriel, if you want to read a different one, if you go to Epic and you in the search bar, if you write myths in there, it will
Myths.
actually bring up a bunch of
All
different.
the myths.
Okay. So if you want to read a different one, you can.
Oh yeah, I was about to say. Alright, I'm gonna mute myself now.
Thank you. Okay. So those are your options for today. Those are your options for today.